Hey guys, I'm back. So, welcome back. I'm Jenny, also known by the rest of the world as Inky Paws Art. I'm just going to get myself set up here and I'll tell you a bit about the art block. So, usually I start by talking to the camera myself. Today, well, this time round, I can't be bothered, so I'll just put you guys up on the tripod straight away. So what am I doing here? Well, today is art block day. I like art block day, and I am basically finishing off from my last periscope from about an hour ago. I'll show you the schedule at the end, basically because I've got all of this stuff going on right now, and because this is all over the place, I don't want to start messing around just yet with it. So I will show you the schedule, but you will have to wait until the end to see it. Ah, tough. Wahahaha. Okay, so I've got you guys up on my laptop. That's the word I want. I'm going to turn you guys around because that's going to bug me otherwise if you guys are sideways. Come on. Flip around. Come on, come on, come on. Because like I say, it's going to bug the crap out of me if it doesn't go. So, let's start there. Ah, fabby. Brill. We're there. Well, it's caught up with itself. Okay, so for those of you that weren't with me before, hello. If you were with me, welcome back. Awesome to have you. So I am very much a mixed media artist and creative, chaotic person. It's one of the ways I describe myself now. I'm just trying to get this to go to where I wanted to, actually. There we go. So I've got majority of it in now. Now, if you weren't here before, that's okay. I would suggest you go back and see the previous scope because that actually shows you what I've created and how I've created it. Basically, what I've done is got some watercolour paper. I've put it in an embroidery hoop and I've started to embellish the hoop with different bits and pieces. And I've used a heavy body gel medium just to glue down those different bits and bobs. Now, it's not quite where I wanted it to be. It's not quite dry enough for me to do much more with it. Especially this piece, because this is being a bit stubborn now. It will go, it's just going to take time and patience, none of which I have in much abundance. So what I'm going to do, so that I can work on it a bit further, I'm going to just position it and I'm going to stitch it down. And for that I will just use needle and thread. So, I'm going to use white. Actually no, I'm going to use black so I can see it. Let's make my life a bit easier. So I'm just going to grab a length of black thread. No sinister, no technical, we are literally just going to go in with it. Go for it. Right. And one needle required. I don't want that one, I want one of these. Where are we? Yeah, I'll have that one out. No, I only need one, not three. Okay, so just pop him down a couple of moments and just get the needle threaded. And what this will allow me to do, there we are, is, oh, I've got more needles out. Obviously I've got another gap there. So let me pop these puppies back because I don't really want to be sticking myself with needles for the rest of the evening. It's not my idea of fun, if I'm honest. But yeah, we're going to stitch that down just to hold it in place, keep it to one side for us, and so that we can do a bit of work on the rest of it. So, thread needle, not easy. Yeah, I'm sure everyone can thread a needle. And for those of you who were on before, this is what my hands look like because I didn't wear gloves. Okay, I am covered in the stuff. It doesn't feel bad. It feels perfectly normal. It's just like a little bit of plastic coating, so I'm sitting picking it off somewhat. But yeah, it is all good. Now I'm going to double up my thread and just put a knot in the end. And it's just black so I can see it on this particular paper. We'll be covering it over later on, so I'm not worried or freaking out about it, but I do need it to hold in place a bit better than it is. So let's tie that off. I'm going to start at the back of the paper. So move that off to one side, and I want to just come up round about here, so just where the glue is. I'm just going to keep pressing until I find my space. I'm not worried about putting additional holes in the paper. I just want to get it in. There we are. Oh, that's come straight through. Bugger it. Right. let's put another knot in it. I haven't got any tape over here. Usually I use washi tape for it, but I haven't got any across here. I can secure it that way. I might well go and grab some in a bit. Might not. We'll see. Put a few more knots in it. That should hold it for now. But at least it means I've got the hole I need. So let's get that back in place. No, too far across. Too far in. There, got it. Perfect. So, keep that down. Now, if I don't answer a question you've got for me, just bear with me. Keep asking it. I will get there eventually. Now, I'm just going to pop that in position. I'm just going to come down into... I just want to hold it in place and just keep shoving, well, pushing at it until I get the needle through. Now, this is where it gets a bit tricky because I haven't cut back the paper, but I don't want to cut back the paper yet, and you'll see why later on. It just gives me a bit of a better surface to work on. So I am going to secure it here initially, or at least attempt to. There we go. And I'm also going to secure it in another place, but for now I just want to get it held in place slightly so that we can work on things. Alright. No, not Mr. Octopus. He doesn't need securing. He's pretty well secure. It's not done too badly actually for only having had an hour of drying time, but it does need longer, so we'll get this at least secured so that we can do a few final pieces before I actually leave it to dry completely, because I do need it to dry. Gel medium's all very well, but if it's not dry I'm going to have a much harder time, so you'll have to excuse my head whilst I'm doing this as well. Just, I need to be able to see what's going on where. Just hold that down a bit, and now I'm going to come up through the middle. So I am going to pretty much kill this needle doing this, but yeah, not the end of the world, is it? Now I'm just going to secure it across here. So I'm going to secure it in two particular places. Yep. So just there initially, and then I'll do another across the other side of it. Now it goes through really easily because the paper's absorbing the water from the gel. Now whilst there's not a great deal of water in the gel, because it's an acrylic medium, you do have a certain amount of wet in there. So I just want to secure it literally like that, and that's going to hold it in place. Allow the gel around it to dry so that it actually stays put. I can just push the gel in there. I can go over it a couple of more times. I don't feel that I really need to, because as the gel dries it's going to hold as is. Actually, yeah, I will do. So I'm just going to go up there again, do a couple more of these stitches. I only really need to secure it, like I say. I change my mind all the time when I do these. Right, one more round through that, and nearly on the final, I think. Problem is, if you rip the paper, because it's damp paper, you can rip it quite easily, and I actually have, but the gel should hold that for me. Now I'm not going to try and cast anything off. I'm going to wait for it to dry before I cast it off, and I'll just tape it down at the back. Now, because it's not dry enough for me to really work on lots, we're going to have to do... Hello, Tom. We are going to have to do a little bit of working around, okay? So they're held in place, they're fairly secure, they're not going to start shifting around tons, but they need to be drier than they are for me to work over them. And I only know that from experience. So we're going to add a little bit more embellishment just to finish off, and then we're going to move on to something else, okay? And I will get this finished over the course of the week, and you guys will be able to see it in the Facebook group later on. Okay, so I've got a couple more bits that I want to add. I've got this lovely wire piece here, which is going to sit, I want it to sit up here. I've been playing around with it a little bit. So I've just got to sort of play around and fiddle around with this area here. I can pull out some of this net so that it sits further out again. There we are. So we've got that. I mean, I could have put it sort of up here or around here, or even down here to dangle down, but I actually like the idea of it being up here. No idea why. Actually, I could do it as a hook there almost, so that it really does dangle down. Might do that actually. However, So that's going to sit around there somewhere. And I've got these couple of little earring, well, what were earrings, I've just pulled them off their clasps, and they can just sit wherever I fancy. So I could hang one off here later on, I could hang one down here, I could hang it off here, and rather than gluing these on, I'm going to just stitch them on at some point towards the end so that they stay silvery, because I've just spent forever polishing the bookers, so it'll be a good idea for me to just stitch them down somewhere. So that's my initial point with those. I've got a few additional bits that are going to sort of drop down. So I've got a leaf here, I've got a little skeleton. They're all going to dangle down again later. And then I have this piece of wire. Now this is basically, my husband is, like me, one hell of a nerd, and we have a small stash of old electronics, so I've pulled them to pieces. And this was taken out the middle of a telephone wire. Yeah, the things we do for art supplies. Now, because it's a nice piece of wire, we can bundle it up a bit and just put it in one place, or we can spread it out. Now, this is where I get very indecisive, because I've not got a huge amount of this, but it's going to look awesome on something like this. So, I need to straighten it out a bit because it's been coiled up for so long. So first things first, and that it's just like curling ribbon, so running your nails through it and just curling it back on itself will help to give it, straighten out a little bit, not lots, but a little bit more. So what I want to do with it isn't to glue it down, I'm going to weave it. Because I have this netting, I don't need to glue it per se, I just need to push it into different areas so that it stays put. So just to anchor it somewhere. And that's what we're going to do with it. Now, it will be a bit of a pain because I've already stuck stuff down. So I'm going to really annoy myself and move things about a bit so that I can just have it held down by other elements, so that I'm doing a bit of like stitching in with some of it, but just keeping it around. Yeah, I know what I mean, even if no one else does. Right, so I've started off there. I'm going to come around the underside of this, just pull it up, and I can always cut this at different points. So that's sitting down here. Where are we going to take it next? I'm going to take this end here, and I'm going to slide it off into this. It's almost like some sort of weird knitting, I suppose. Hey, Marilyn. Right. Just get this pulled through. Make sure we're up and running. There we go. So that's curved around there, and it's just the way that this is already, like, the wire's already curved. So I've got to just tease it around and play with it till I get it into a position where I'm happy with it. That's all it is. So jiggery pokery is the term of the day, I think, there. I'm going to let that curl that way, actually. And we're going to sort of pin it down under this curve. Curve, swirl, whatever I want to call it here. And you can use more gel if you need to. No harm in it. Right, where's that come out? So that's come out there, and that's where it's hooked down there. So it's just figuring out where it's going and what it wants to do, and trying to work with the natural shape of the wire. Sometimes you don't get it right, like that one, I didn't, but it sits nicely under there, so just ease that in a bit. Now, I don't want it to stand upright. I want to do, I think, curve that round there. That might work. It's tricky when you're working with wire like this because it's already curled and it's already got shape. You're just trying to work with the natural flow, but it has this weird natural flow and will bend in different directions. So I think if I try to anchor it down here, just pull this through, see where we go from there. The other thing, because it's really thin, it knots. And that bugs me. Bugs the crap out of me. Okay, brilliant. So I've got it to that point where it's going to anchor happily. So I am going to need some more gel. I'll deal with that in a moment. Okay. Now I could cut this off and just stop there, but I'm not going to because this is me and I'm awkward. Now bring that around the back of this. Ooh, that would have been a nice anchor. Yeah, we will. And I'm going to bring it down through this and up to here. So first things first, I'm going to pop a bit of gel into it, just to give me, I'm just going to use little scrape of gel under here to anchor it. Now, I can see this, and I'm sorry if I've got my head in the way, guys, but tough. And that will just help anchor both pieces together. It'll take a little while to just get them into the right place and as much gel as I need in there. Because, you know, I'm awkward. Okay. That should hold the pair of them. Might take a little while to actually get them fully adhered, but it'll go. And that's all I need it to do, is just go eventually. I'm not worried about it spending the rest of its life held down, but there you go. I can pop things like this on top just to hold it when it needs to go, but for now that'll keep it in place as I need. So I've got that bit sitting up. I'm not happy about that sitting up quite so far, so let's pull this in here. Brilliant, that's better. Okay, and that should hold that down nicely. Brilliant. So I've got the rest of this wire to play with now, and that's just slid itself under there. I don't really want to go under there, I want to come over the top here. So if I just push that into there, it's like knitting almost, just without plaiting, and a lot more fiddly, but we will get through. So I'm just going to shove this through there, and I'm going to hook it under. Got it. Okay. I'm just going to keep working it through, pulling these bits through until I've got it the way I want them. Now, if I get like a loop like that, I could just pull back a bit. I'm not going to with this. I'm actually going to go right the way through and carry it through, because I think that's a good idea. Oh, noisy yobs on a Saturday night. Joy. Right, that's there. Brilliant. That I'll just anchor down later. Okay, there's plenty of gel under it. It will hold. It just needs to cure a bit first and needs something heavy to just hold it down. So let's get on with weaving this. Oh, 20 minutes in, I've been weaving for most of this. So pull that through. Oh, I've caught it round. I could leave it caught round, but I'm not going to, because that's going to be a pain in the ass to paint. So let's get that there. I don't want him to disrupt my octopus up the top there, so we're going to keep pulling this through. And there, got a nice little loop there. That'll anchor itself happily. Fabulous. And come down here again, pull through. If we get small loops like this, these are the kind that are really, really handy and useful to keep things in place. And I can put a couple of stitches in there later if I wanted to. I'm going to just try and edge that round there so it frames. Yeah, that should work nicely actually. That'll work beautifully if it holds. Might not hold yet, but we'll see how it goes. And with the wire, I'm just going to keep bending it to try and get it to hold the shape I want. It doesn't always work out, but you know, if you don't try, you're not going to know. So again, it's going to come up through here, and we're going to come up. Where's the end? I'm going to come up into here. Brilliant. Gotcha. Sod bag. I will win. Might take me the rest of the evening to do it, but I will win. Okay, I'm going to have another couple of little curls around here, because it's almost like a form of fishing line at the bottom of the ocean, if you like. Now let's tuck this in here. So I've got this as quite a large loop there coming round. I'm just going to come back in here, and I'm going to, because this will help anchor it in the same place, and that's always a good idea, because it's all about just anchoring in the best way you can. Yeah. And I can come back in with different products later on. I can stitch these down later on. I can glue them down if needs be. So we're going to come into here now. And now we're getting into an area where we're going to be able to stop and look at gluing down, but turn the right way. So I want it to come up here so I can glue it into here at the very end, but that's just not going to happen by the look of this. Might do actually. I'll just move that out of the way because I haven't glued it yet, so let's see how we get on. So that's going to pull up nicely to there, then just curl this round a couple of times I think, and I reckon we can anchor it in there. So that can sit under and in here. I think that could work well. if I can get it to go. So I'm just going to wrap the wire around itself and just pull it in a small knot, just into a position that's going to work for me. And then I'm going to come in here and push this through the netting and under here. Now I'm going to lift this up actually, just so that I can get my hands in and just pull it. Yeah. And then the end can sit under the feather quite nicely. Job's a good un, to quote my husband. Okay, Harley, take care, love. Thank you for being with me for a bit. Right, there we go. Fantastic. That took a bit more effort than I thought it would, but we made it. We made it. That's good. That's good. Now, so a couple of things we're going to do before we add anything. Well, before we add anything, before we do the last bits of embellishment. So I've got this, and I'm going to put glue on the back of the key and a little bit up here. Okay, it's just a little bit across the wire, just to help it stay in one place. So helps if I do it the right way around, but we'll see if we can get another twist out of it. Yeah, we can. So I want this to sit in here somewhere and highlight itself up there. Now it's going to hold on literally the loosest tag ever, because it's not going to sit on anything solid. Certainly not at the moment. I mean, the key is going to sit embedded in here, but that wire, unless I push it down to something, isn't. So what I'll have to do later on is just put something heavy. So I've got 2 bits worth that need something a little heavier on, or I'll need to come in with some stitches later. So I'll pop the gel medium to one side and just clean this off. Palette knife needs cleaning off every time, because otherwise it just becomes a mess. Right, we are going to add some more texture to this, because if you hadn't guessed by now, I enjoy texture. I'm a big fan of it. Just put my needle and thread away. I'll pop those down. So for this, I'm going to add more texture, like I say, and these are art stones. They're actually a byproduct of glass making, and these are by a company called Prima. The make is Finnabair, and I'm going to use these to sort of add a bit more texture around the edges, because these things go in small nooks and crannies, but they also go everywhere. So what we are going to do, she says, taking a massive glug of water, is just clear a bit of space here, because I need to work inside a box. Because if I do not work inside a box, I have these floating around for the next century, and they drive me around the bend. So I have, by the powers of Amazon, acquired a nice big box. I'll try and do this without killing you guys. So it goes in the box. First things first. Always goes in the box. Right, there we are. Whew. That's a bit better. These stones will bounce around like anything, so we need it in a contained area. And after that, I'll just weigh those couple of bits down that I need to weigh down, and I'm going to leave it to dry and we'll move on to an art journal page or something. So first things first, I need a brush. Now I have a range of brushes that I use for this kind of work, because they need to be, they're going to die very quickly doing this. I've got my gel medium. It's just a regular gel medium. Okay, it's not a heavy body gel like we were using on the last scope. And I'm going to start with the larger stones. So these, they're what, 3-4 millimeters in diameter, thereabouts, and they will adhere to wherever there is glue. But they also go everywhere, so just be a little bit wary. So I'm going to just make sure that's stuck down there. Now, wherever I have wet glue, these are going to wind up, so just adjust that a little bit. Okay. So I'm going to come in here first of all and just down the bottom, and these are to add texture. It's all they're for. It's just adding texture, and with most mixed media projects you do want texture. You know, you don't want it to just be flat, because that's quite frankly a little bit boring. Okay. I'm not worried about moving the elements around too much, because they'll work in to their own little natural pattern, and you know, a lot of these stones, because of the nature of them, will lift a bit. I'm not sure why they lift so much, but they will lift a bit. And I can come in and put, stitch things in like I did before as well, later on, if needs be. So I'm going to come into all these areas and just put gel down. I can put it at the top here, and actually that's probably quite a good idea around this area. But they'll adhere to wherever I put the gel. So, a bit down here I reckon. I'll just pop that in. Now, these stones aren't too bad, but they do go everywhere in the grand scheme, so I've had this pot for ages and a little goes a long way. Now, I'm just going to sprinkle them into the areas where I put glue. And what you'll find is they never adhere as you expect. So, well, nothing adheres as you expect in mixed media. Some things will adhere really well, some things that you think should glue happily won't, and all the rest of it. But such is the way of the world. So I'm just sprinkling these into those areas where I put glue. And when they dry, some of them will have stuck, others won't. It's okay. It's all the fun of the texture. So where have I got some more? Ooh, a bit more down here I reckon. And actually it'd be good to have a bit around the back there. So I'll come in with that. Plug up my paintbrush with it. So I'm just going to pop down gel medium by the bucket down here. Now I've got the stones have stuck to the brush, so where you've got stones stuck to your brush, you can just pull them out. Now you can just gently. Now there's a few up there, and we're going to pop a few around the edge here. And like I say, we're just adding a bit of extra texture to it. I mean, why not? You know, if it looks too flat, you'll be wondering why you bothered. You know, it's supposed to be 3D. But wherever you have glue, these are going to stick. So it's always a good idea to just put them down and let them dry first before you start trying to prise things around. Now, I do have smaller ones, and we are going to go in with the small ones. Again, only put glue where you want them to go. If you don't want them to go somewhere, don't put the glue there, because you're going to get it. Now, they will start to clog up your brush. So you do want to play a little bit more carefully with this potentially, especially if you don't have really old brushes like me, because when they start to clog at your brush, they start to get into the bristles, and at that point it's going to kill your brush. You're not going to be able to use it for any sort of fine work at all. Just trust the voice of experience here, because I've done it often enough. So because this is netting, and because we had the sculpture medium on it, this netting holds things together pretty well, and you can glue on top of it, which is really handy for this. Now I'm going to go in, like I say, with the finer stones this time, and I'm going to just try and keep that in specific areas. Once they're dry, you'll be able to move them about a bit more. Some of them won't adhere properly, some of them there won't be enough glue, that kind of thing. So it all comes down to just a wing and a prayer with this stuff, to be honest. I'll put a bit up here just to get in and just to add a bit more texture there. Now I'll put my brush down. We've got these fine ones now. Right now we're doing pretty well, but these go all over, which is why I'm working inside a box. So if you've just joined us, the reason I'm working inside of a box is to try and not get these little stones all over my house. Because last time I did it, I had them around for about 4 months, and they drove me nuts. So just sprinkling them around. I suppose it's almost like icing sugar, you could say. But wherever you've got loose glue, this is going to stick. And we'll come over in the areas where we've got some of the larger stones as well, because these little stones will fall into the middle. And once they're dry, you'll be able to brush some of them off. Some of them will not have stuck, some of them will have stuck in places you didn't expect. So if you're a perfectionist, be prepared that this is not going to turn out in exactly the way you want them to. Yeah, exactly like glitter. It will go everywhere. Except these annoy me more than glitter. I like glitter rather a lot. My husband's not a big fan. Now, the other thing I'm going to do, because I actually quite like the idea of this spoon down the bottom, I'm going to smear gel into it, just around the rim where I have this pebble, and I'm going to come back in with some of those stones because I think that's going to look pretty cool. Might not, it might look shit at the end of it, but we'll see. We shall certainly see. Right. Okay, Brillo. Why am I saying Brillo all of a sudden these days? No idea. Okay, where else have I got? Sorry, I'm just sticking my head in. Yeah, I think that should work quite nicely actually. Okay, so my brush is going straight into water because otherwise I will have no brush left. Because gel medium really does do a lot of damage to your brushes. And I'm going in with the little stones because those big ones are a little bit too big for this. But let's just come around the edge here and exactly like glitter, just sprinkling them in and see where we go. A few more around the area, just a dusting. Now, what I'm going to do is leave this to dry. I've got a couple of things I need to weigh down as well. So I need to put some weight on this so that it holds, some weight up here so that these hold. And that's really easy. Just things like your tub of gels. Just sit them on the top and just get them to balance in place. And they will hold what you need down quite happily. Now, before I start weighing them down though, I am going to dust off just anything that's loose because I've got a lot of loose product in here that's not going to adhere to anything. So I'm just going to move it around first of all to get it to the edges. And then we'll tip it upside down and you can hear that. Okay, brilliant. And that's it. Now, this I'm probably going to have to stitch down, but we'll see whether the gel will hold over time. So, two things I need to put in are here. So I'm going to use, I'll use the gel across here because I don't need a heavy hold there. I need it just to try and hold itself. For down here, I have around, these are coasters that my husband brought back. They've got quite a bit of weight to them. And I'm just going to balance them on the top there. And what that does is keeps everything in one place. It just adds the weight to help the glue adhere, to help everything adhere in the long run. And that is where I'm going to leave it for tonight with this particular piece. And so what will happen, all of the glue will dry and then I'll start to paint it. So at some point this week I'll probably come on another scope because I'm not on the art block next weekend. I'm away at a hen do, so I'm going to be, we're actually doing art for it, but I'll just not be on the art block. But I'll try and come on during the week and we can look at finishing this off. If you can't make it during the week or you don't catch me, I'll leave the replays up. You can also pop into the Facebook group and you'll be able to see everything in there. So I'm just going to move this to one side and it is going to just stay put and dry. So, move that over. Sorry guys, I'm just balancing things to one side. Bro. Alright, we're now on to just a nice bit of clear space here. Now these couple of bits I've got at the top, they are for that project and they're going to just pop to one side for now. Just so that they are handy for when I do finishing touches and such like. Pop them there. Right, let us crack on with something else. So, actually, it reminds me, so, something I was asked this week was how do you break a notebook or a journal? Now this is my current art journal that I'm using. It's a Dilutions Square Journal by Ranger and I've only done one thing in it, which is that. Actually no, I've done two. I tell a lie. So I've done a couple of things in it, but you know, nothing much, nothing major. And it is just playing around with paint and that's what we're going to do now because, well, why not? You know, why shouldn't we play around with paint? It's what life is for, or at least it is if you ask me. So I'm going to get out, these are my favourite stencils. These are actually chakra stencils or chakra stencils or however you want to pronounce it. I had a massive debate with some people the other week and I'm going to get out some sprays. Now these particular sprays they're not a water soluble, they're actually an alcohol based spray and they are slightly glitzy, slightly glammy, and I actually just quite like working with them. So they've got some mica powder in them, so they need to be shaken up before we use them. And we're going to have a play around with these first as just a single layer, and that's where I'm going to start. Now I don't put any gesso on my pages first. You can if you want, that is entirely up to you, entirely your call. It's just a personal preference thing. Okay, so just get these shaken up so that they're not sitting with all the mica powder at the bottom, because I can see where they are at the moment. Just a little bit of prep before we get started. And the nice thing is these will dry and they're pretty colour fast. They're not completely, but they are pretty colour fast. So, yeah. Love them. They're all shimmery and pretty. Now, get the stencils out. I really need to use a better bag for these things. Okay, so these are well used stencils. Nothing major, but what I'm going to do is just lay them about in different places. And we're just going to play around with the sprays. It doesn't matter particularly how... I mean, I'm not about perfection. I'm not worried about the perfect impression on these. I just want to have a mess around with sprays and stencils and things. Yeah, why not? So I'm just going to lay them out, and I'm going to start with some yellow and just spray it around a bit. And we're going to use all of these colours. So they will start to blend, hopefully, together. Ooh, I do like that one. Such a pretty colour. Now, the closer you give them, the closer you get them, obviously, the more tight your spray is going to be. Yeah, and maybe a bit up there. So, the more sort of focused your spray is going to be. Now, I do need to give it a little bit of time to dry off so that they don't blend in too far. Because I've got green and blue next, and these two, because it's green and blue, obviously mixing them with pinks is a little bit harder, so I am going to however start, because I can, and because I'm not patient, and because it's art, so who cares? My rules. Remember, your art, your rules. Now, like I say, technically these colours don't mix, but I'm sure we'll be okay, and if I'm not, I'll have learned something from it. Like, that's about to make mud. Oops, never mind. I shall cope with some mud. A little bit up there and a little bit in there. Right. So, you've got a couple of options now. You can leave them to dry, you can use a heat gun to dry them, or if you have, like me, I work with scrap cloths. Now these look minging, but they're not. They have been cleaned, they're just dry and grotty because they've been stained so much. So I'm just going to go over, I'm just going to pop the cloth down. I'm not going to move it around, I'm just going to put it down. And it's going to help mop up some of the colour so that we can move on a bit quicker than we might have otherwise. So, that's it. Really simple. I just need to grab my heat gun and we're going to put them over it. You can see where it's bled through. I'm not worried about bleed through. It's all hunky-dory. Pull these up, and what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to sandwich them on the next page, I think. I think that'll be quite interesting. So, let's give that a shot. No idea what it's going to look like, but, you know. It's all about playing around and seeing what works, and sometimes it doesn't, and, you know, it's okay. As you might have guessed by now, I'm not about perfection by any stretch of imagination. Perfection is the enemy of creativity, if you want my opinion. So I'm just going to pop them there, and I'm just going to pop that down. I'm going to dry this first, so I can start pressing down on them. And we've got quite an abundance of colour here. It looks different, interesting. We've got these little gaps everywhere. So we're able to start playing with colour, seeing how different products react together, what's going to work, what's not going to work. And all of these colours do actually work quite well together until I sprayed them right on top of the other. But even then, even as a muddy colour, it looks quite good. So, nearly there. And I can just press this down now so that that page underneath starts to bring itself together a bit more. And these will dry fairly quickly. If I had a bit more space on the cable, they'd dry a lot faster, but I haven't, so I'm not quite that lucky. Stick my head in again. Okay. And it should pretty much do it. Now, I'm just going to press down here so that I can just lift these up. Still a bit wet actually. We'll cope. Right. And there we've got these prints. These are just going to make my next page really. So anywhere I've just got leftover ink, you know, it breaks the white page, and that's half your battle, is just breaking that white page, breaking that space where you're just like, what is this? They can come off and put over here. There we are. I just keep a little tub with a cloth in it just to help me clear up later. Alright, so we'll come back to this page. It's still got a bit of damp to it, but, you know, nothing major. I'll grab some colours out now. Yeah, I know, we've already got some colours. So, I've got these which are, these are literally just dye. Just dried pigment. And these are really cool when you spray water on them. I don't even think I've got a water sprayer across here, which is a shame, because we could have used that. I've got some pens. These are watercolour pens, Ecoline pens, and these are some really bright colours. I do like working with them actually, but I find them a bit more temperamental, and then a series of acrylic paints that we can potentially play about with. So pop those off to one side. So, next step. What do we have? Well, I really want to do some spraying, and oh, I have got a spray bottle. So, one spray bottle. Now, like I say, these are literally stains, okay? It's powdered pigment. It's really, 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 really potent. I cannot even begin. Yeah, I struggle with the watercolour pens. I'm tending to use them for backgrounds at the moment rather than any sort of fine detail. Now, I'm just going to sprinkle some of this about because, like I say, this stuff is super potent. And these three colours mix together quite well. I've got a magenta, which is super strong, like, oh my god, strong. A teal, which is, likewise, stupidly strong. And then that sort of sunshiny yellow, that burnt yellow. It's not quite orange, but, yeah. I'm just sprinkling these around. Now, when you spray, these things start to move because they're a powder. So a spray will always come with a puff of air. So you will find they move around. So the higher up I hold this, the more control I have, because it just damps them down first. There you go. So you can see they've damped down a bit. And I can add more. I can come in a bit more focused, add more water into the area, you know, and really start to move them about more and more and more. Okay. Oh, so pretty. So once you've got them damp, you can start moving them around with a paintbrush instead. Because you don't have to stick to just going with the mister. So I'm going to start here in the middle. And these are really, really nice colours. They're not full-blown bright. They do have a muted tone to them. And I really like that, because I can come in and move them around and I get sort of a brownish effect with them. But it's still got some really vibrant pops of colour, which I like. So like here I've got this lovely orange coming through, and then I've got the browns coming through too, and just moving them around. It's just playing. Just playing around and seeing what we get out of it. I mean, you know, it doesn't look muddy as in, oh my god, it's awful, what do I do? It just looks different. So I'm going to pop that down in favour of the spray bottle again. And with the spray bottle, again, I'm just moving things around a bit, letting them spider out, letting it dilute, and it's just changing the texture on the paper. Just makes it something slightly different. Now, we can move these around a bit more. We can do quite a few things with them actually, but you can tip them. You can see it's moving around. I'm not precious. I don't worry about these like moving so much. I don't care if they slide, if they bleed, whatever. It doesn't matter in the slightest. So I'm just moving them around. Just let the water shift them really. So I've got two layers now that are very different to one another, but they're going to merge together well. Now again, we can take a cloth and we can just pull up some of the moisture, okay? And that's going to dull the pigment down too. So if you want to keep bright pigment, you need to let these dry naturally. If you are okay with it becoming slightly duller, or, well, not duller, dull's the wrong word, because they're not, they are bright pigments. If you are comfortable with them, just, there we are, being less vibrant, you can just pick up some of the loose water around the area. Okay, and leave it at that. So I'm going to try that page again, and the only thing with these books is if I don't seal, then everything starts to leak through. Now, I'm not worried because I'm not precious about things, but if you are, you do need to be aware that water leaks through pages. Water damages spines. So if it's going to bother you, be aware of it and do something about it. If it's not going to bother you, then you are fine. So I just want to check how far that's gone because these are so potent. Because you will have to start paying a bit of attention to it, but you don't worry about it. It's just a case of knowing what's happening, knowing what you're working with, I suppose. That's what I'm trying to say. So I'm just going to dry this off now. And because we have that initial layer of like spray under it, we've got sort of a sparkly effect. But it's not glittery, it's just sparkly. You like sparkly. At least I do. You might not, but I do. If you're not, well, opinions are different in this house. My husband's not a fan of sparkly either, so if you don't like sparkly, you are not alone. Now, I just want this to dry off a bit. Gives me the opportunity to be able to work over it. Layers you need to dry. Just otherwise you start to get really muddy and it gets blech. So if you find that your work gets muddy, make sure you're drying things. Because a lot of stuff now will dry quite happily and then not react with the layers above it. So if you find you're having a problem, it's a good place to start troubleshooting. Now, that is not dry, but almost it'll do. Right. I'm just going to lift this side so that I can get in and see it. Because you can see the sheen of the water and you can see where it's drying. And this is one of the easiest ways to tell if you're dry or not. Isn't it? Put more up here. Oh, that's moving well. Come on. I do need this to dry before we continue on, I'm afraid, guys, so you will have to bear with me. Right, I'm just going to make sure that the spine's dry. Right, coming back to this one and just wiping it down. Yeah, it suffered a bit, but it'll be okay. And just need to give that a bit of a dry because otherwise I'm going to lose these pages because the spine will just die. Okay, that should do it. And it's just the way the spine's glued in this book. That's all it is. Okay, that should do it. Now, just pop my brush to one side, like that. Now, what I'm going to do is come in with some paint, and I've got a lovely bright blue in here, and I think that's going to be really interesting, but we have metered tones, and I think that's possibly going to be a bit too bright. Actually, both of those will be. Where have I got? I've got a lovely blue-grey in here. So I'm going to have a dig around for that. Is it there? Yeah. This. And it's almost like a lavender. It's a beautiful colour. I love it so, so much. Now, I'm not going to work with a brush with this because I'm too fleming lazy. It's what it boils down to. I'm just going to come in a couple of areas, splat it on. I'm going to get my fingers in. That's what I'm going to do. I don't worry about things going onto different pages. Just move things around. I use my fingers a lot here. Well, I use my fingers a lot in all my art, to be honest. But there we are. This stuff, I think it's a beautiful colour. There's something about it where it's a muted blue, but it's just so beautiful. I mean, it's like butter as well. These are Amsterdam paints, just in case you're wondering. They are so nice to use. But I'm not going perfection, I'm just going to play. We'll see where it takes us. You know, we've got another 10 minutes to go yet, so we're just going to move it around the page. I'm not aiming for anything special, I'm just aiming to play around. Now, just get some of that off my hands. So we're now on pretty much 3 layers. We've got the initial sprays, where these were the chakras, the mists, and then we've got these, which are powdered pigments, really strong, really vibrant, and we move them around the page, and then we've got a layer of acrylic paint. So the next layer, and you just build up anything you do in terms of certainly mixed media. Well, actually art in general is you're just building up layers. You're not doing anything complicated. It's not something that you have to make perfect. I mean, this is just built up in layers. This was messing around with a couple of different colours of paint that I had left over. This, again, built up in layers, leftover paint, and then a few bits of paper stuck on it. You know, just messing around, and you learn a lot from just screwing around with it. The idea of an art journal isn't for it to be perfect. The idea of an art journal is to create something and learn from it. Sometimes it looks great, other times it just looks like crap, and you know, the ability to accept that is really important to your creative journey. And I've got a silver here. I don't actually think that's going to work for me. Let's see, what else have I got? I'm not quite on, I don't want it to be pale, but I don't want it to be bright because it's not bright. Actually, I know what will work. Let's give this pink a shot. I think that's going to work really nicely, and I think that's going to make some really unusual pops of colour here. So again, I'm just going to use my fingers, and I'm going to come in a couple of areas, and we're just going to go for it. We're going to see where it takes us. It might look shit, but we'll rescue it if it looks shit. It's alright. So, a bit of paint there. Just going to come in. Again, use my fingers, just come around the edge. And really, I could edge this in black, and I could get some black paint out, but I'm too lazy to go over and get it. Oops. But, you know, I'm not going to worry about edging now. And what you'll also find is when you put certain layers on, they will at points react with what you've got underneath. Actually, I do like that. That works quite nicely. That really does look good together. Okay. So, yes, it's messy. So what? Okay. Where to next? Where to next? Where to next? I think I'm going back to the sprays, to be honest. I've got a lot of colour in here, and I'm not looking for perfection. I'm looking for just playing around a bit, but I want some more opaque colour in here, and I think these sprays are really going to give that. So that's beautiful coral. And it doesn't look so good over there, so I'm only going to go with the one spray. If it doesn't look so good, you can always mop up sprays. You do get a bit of grace with your drying time on them. That might be a bit too red, but we'll see. Actually, that's not bad. I'll go in there a bit. And no, I'll not have a bit up there. Right, I've got my yellow as well. I'm giving them a shake up first because, you know, you do need to give things a shake. Ooh, I do like that. That's looking good. Bit of spray up the top there. Maybe a bit down there. It's not so much about covering it, I'm just adding colours and seeing what happens. And in some cases this is going to look fantastic. In other areas it's not going to look so good, but whatever the outcome, I will have learned something. I'll have learned what these products do, how they react in layers, that kind of thing. And if you go on my blog, and I'll introduce you to that right at the end, I've got a series which actually shows my creative journey of faces, because I was always shit at drawing faces. It's only very recently I've been able to do them justice and to be happy with them. But you can see my journey on my blog of that, and there's some shocking faces on there, some bloody awful stuff. But I find it really important to share the good, the bad and the ugly. Now this I need to let dry again, okay, which is pretty good because it's 5:2, we're nearly at the end of the slot anyway. But I've got a lot of interesting stuff going on here, and this is just a background. What will happen next after I've let it dry, I'll start to build up, maybe using some stencils, maybe using some stickers, maybe a bit of collage. We'll see what happens. But you know, I've learnt how these mists start to react with water, how vibrant and water soluble those pigments are. You know, I've got this lovely opaque paint on here, and then I've got another layer of mist on top of it. And all of that is just from playing around different things. You can see in here I've still got some of the chakra stencils showing through, same up here as well, and a little one down here. So I've got these areas of interest that I'm looking at now, and as a background, those areas of interest are what will carry it forward into sort of the next stage. I'm going to put a bit of this green ink at the top here, just because I've got sort of an orangey peachy colour down here, but I've got a little green up here, and I think it will merit. Yeah, it will. A bit down there too. Apart from anything, it's pretty, and I like the colour. So they're going to dry, and what I'll do with them, again, I'll come back to these later on, because they need to dry. I can't just dive in and add more stuff to them now. I have to give them the opportunity to dry. And what I'll probably do with this, I suspect, is come in with some rub-ons, maybe some stickers, maybe just build some word blocks here, some blocks of text, maybe with stamps, that kind of thing. And that's my thought process with it. Whether I do that or not will depend on how I feel on the day, but we shall see how it goes. Now, I suppose I better tell you a bit more, so I'm going to move this out of the way just so that it can dry. Just pop it to one side there. Now, first up, if you want to see the finished pieces, they will be in the Facebook group. Not immediately, because I need a bit of time to actually finish them, but over the course of the week, as I finish projects that are part of the art block, I pop them in the Facebook group. So if you want to see them, dive over there, join in, and you know, if you want to dive on Periscope and do some live art, go for it. So the schedule for today is as follows. So up next, lovely Marilyn. We're nearly at the end of it, so, well, no, we're about halfway through, just over halfway. So for me, it's nearly midnight, but this is all EST, so for you guys across in the US, you've got quite a lot going on, and actually we're going on until 1 AM today, bloody hell. Somebody's brave. I am not that brave. I'm heading to bed now because, like I say, it's nearly midnight. Now, if you want to see me and see more of me, I spend a lot of time on Facebook and Instagram more than anything. So pop over there. They are the main places you'll find me. If you're wanting to try something creative and you don't know where to start, pop over to my blog, www.inkypawsart.com, and check out the Creative Viagra quiz. Thank you, Sage. It's been lovely to spend a couple of hours with you guys actually today. It's been phenomenal. Pop over there. I've got a Creative Viagra quiz, so pop your little blue pill, find out what's going to work for you, and you can get started. There's loads of ideas, loads of inspiration, loads of suggestions. So, I'm going to dive off now, basically because I really want to go to sleep. Like I say, it's midnight. Thank you so much, guys, for spending some time with me today, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Take care. Hello, Sage. It was lovely to meet you too. Have a fantastic time today, and hopefully I will see you either back here at some point, or just catch me on the blog or over on Facebook or such like. Take care, guys. Love you lots. Bye.